Welcome to the InterAgency Board podcast. The InterAgency Board can be found at interagencyboard.org. Good day and welcome to the InterAgency Board podcast. I'm your host, Dave Donahue, and with me today are two of the leaders of strategic planning and emergency services in the nation, Dave Bunce and Dave Holmberg. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Dave Bunce, can you introduce yourself for us?
Sure. Thank you, Dave. I have 40 years in the fire service in 3 organizations. And my work in strategic planning in 2 of the organizations was pretty unique. I was the national fire chief for Rural Metro Corporation, where I was responsible for 27 fire departments in 7 states and 3 in Bolivia. And that was exciting because the fire service in Rural Metro was just accepting strategic planning. And when I retired from Rural Metro, I went to the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community Fire Department as their fire chief and emergency manager. And in that organization as well, strategic planning was something new for them. So it was exciting to watch strategic planning grow in that organization. And since then, I've been teaching at the National Fire Academy.
Thank you. And Dave Holmberg from California.
Hi. Out of Southern California, 32 and a half years, fire district and city experience. You name the area of the fire service, I had something to do with it at some point during my career. And I also kind of have a unique background in that I was on a school board and a civil service commission for school district for over 30 years. And so in addition to being involved in strategic planning in the fire service, I was also involved in the educational level. Like Dave, I've been teaching at the Fire Academy for, I think I'm coming up on my 30th year, and in the planning and information management curriculum area. So,
Okay. Well, welcome both of you. I guess the first question I want to ask is, what is strategic planning and how does it fit into emergency services?
Well, it's not operational planning. It's something that is typically used, I think, for big ticket items, strategic initiatives, new things the department is going to be doing that are multifaceted. It's going to be a different type of planning than they're probably used to on a day-to-day basis, and maybe getting other people involved as well in the process. The organization has to understand that as a result of undertaking a strategic plan, it's going to result in change in the organization. First question you got to ask is, are we ready for that? And will we accept the potential for the change? And if we're not, don't waste your time, because it's just going to frustrate you. So that's kind of in a nutshell, my thoughts on that particular subject. So,
I agree with Dave. I think as I work with other organizations, I point out that strategic planning is like a roadmap. And if you put that roadmap together well, it can give your organization milepost markers to get things done.
the other thing
Thank
is that the strategic planning group that you're going to have is probably made up of, it's not all top down. It has to be throughout the organization, and even in its best application, getting members of the public perhaps involved in the process as well. The bonus there that you get at the end is you've got a little cheerleader outside the organization that has gone through the process and understands what's taken place as a result of the strategic planning effort, and that can be a valuable ally to as you're presenting to elected officials. So.
Okay. Thank you. And for emergency services leaders, if they're looking to develop a strategic plan, where do they start? Where should they be beginning the process at? How does it begin?
Well, I think one of the first places they need to begin is they need to have a vision of what they want to get done. And a vision is different than a dream. And when they look at what their vision is, their vision needs to look at the culture of the organization, the culture of the department, but more importantly, the fire district or the city. And are they going to look at that vision as well, or are you a dreamer? And I've seen some people that they say they have a vision, they have a dream, and that dream isn't going to be accepted by everybody.
Yeah, I think, again, it sets out a destination of what you're trying to accomplish. And it typically, is initiated by a leader, but again, it's not put together necessarily by the leader. The other people in the organization are going to have to do that. And there's some training and some other things that you have to do prior to, just jumping into, we're going to do strategic planning. Because if you don't understand what, all the parts that are involved in it, you're going to set yourself up for failure big time. And then what does that do to the organization if you're trying to do that again in the future sometime? We've done that, been there, done that, don't waste our time. And so the one thing that we talk about sometimes at the academy is if this is a new thing for your organization, you may want to pick something that has a reasonable chance of success. Don't cherry pick something that's just going to be easy, because as a result of what you're doing, it's going to be difficult. And you're going to have to go through some steps and do some, examination of the organization and where you're headed. But you've got to, kind of set yourself up, hopefully, for success, so that then you can build on that in the future as you go back and do subsequent strategic plans or add to the strategic plan as you're going through.
Well, one of the stumbling blocks, Dave, if I can pattern on with you, is some leaders think this is a really easy, quick thing, and they do it fast, and they have a poor product. And again, you're not convincing people that you're going anywhere. So this can be laborious. It can take some time.
And it's different than what a lot of people have been used to doing and the way they approach things. Because we're kind of in a get her done atmosphere in the emergency services. And this is one time when you need to really take a step or two back and make sure that you're covering all the bases as you're going through and not missing anything. And again, that has to do with understanding the process you're about to go through. And again, how long it's going to take, and how long, who's going to be involved, and is their day-to-day assignments and responsibilities going to suffer as a result, because they're working on the strategic plan, and they may be working for somebody different than they're used to. So again, you have to take all those things into account if you're going to try to make something successful.
Okay.
And is the leader willing to give them those resources and time?
Yeah. Training, materials, the whole thing. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
If I can ask, Dave Bunce, you had mentioned a vision versus a dream. What's the difference between the two? How does one know we're heading for a vision versus a dream?
Okay, I'll use this example. A dream might be, if I were king, here's what I would do. A vision is, here's where our organization needs to go over time that will benefit the community and the organization. And a lot of times, dreamers are selfish, if I can use that word, because they're looking at a lot of times it's their dream, but they're not using the vision or using all the data around them for their vision. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, if you go through the process again with your strategic planning team, which typically is somewhere between 5 and 7 people, you may get some things that you didn't think of, and you start out with where you think you're going to be heading. But again, if you have an atmosphere where you're allowing people to express their feelings and what they're thinking without fear of retribution, anything else like that, you may get to a different place than you thought originally, and it may be a good thing. So.
Thank you. When people are starting out, what are some places they should be looking for to get information you're talking about to help frame that vision?
Well, I think there's 2 books in the fire service that are widely known. The first one was written by Mark Wallace in his fire department strategic planning. Mark was actually a student in my class when he was finishing his 2nd edition. And we don't use his model. He has a wonderful model, but we don't use his model because of the fact that the one that we use is the University and Associates model that places vision, or where it is you're trying to go, early in the process, where in Mark's model that takes place later on after you've gone through several steps. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Mark's model, and it works, and it's widely used. And but The power is in determining where you want the organization to go early on in the process so that you can build on that as you're putting your strategic plan together.
I also think it's important for the leader to look at their data. And are they really analyzing their data to help them formulate the direction they want to go? Because a lot of people don't analyze data well enough.
Okay. And who can help emergency services leaders gain support of the decision makers, the policy board, the elected officials?
Well, ideally, if you've gone through the process, you're going to get the strategic plan adopted by the elected officials. And hopefully, again, they're all different. Some read everything you give them, some just read the first page, and that's just life. But if you give them that, they hopefully will understand that there's a plan and what you're trying to do as you move forward. The kind of the worst thing you can do is let's just say, for example, you're going to for some reason you're going to bring a ladder truck in your organization for the first time, and here comes your staff report. Fire department aerial apparatus cost, what is it now, $1.5 to $2 million, and here comes the fire department with their big toys again, and you can get out ahead of that if you talk about in your strategic plan, if you're going to bring that in, what that's going to do for the community. And the thing that you need to stress as you're going through this is what impact and what difference will having that make to our community. What's in it for the taxpayers? What's in it for our stakeholders? And if we can articulate that clearly, it makes it, pretty difficult for the elected officials to go against that, because it's, you're trying to almost set up a mom and apple pie and the girl are left behind. But, a situation that, and they know ahead of time that it's coming. And so when the staff report comes, a year and a half into this thing or whatever you're doing, it's not a surprise to them. And, you always reference the fact that, you remember in our strategic plan, we talked about the acquisition of our ladder truck and what it was going to do for our operational effectiveness and that kind of thing. So.
Well, and also through the process, you want to get as many stakeholders as possible involved in the process. And if you have influential stakeholders that are singing your song, they're going to actually probably do better than you will in front of council, because council listens to their constituents.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard you in the past talk about outputs and outcomes. Are there other things? Can you discuss that, and also other ways to communicate to help sell policy leaders on the needs of the strategic plan?
Well, I'll start with that, especially outputs and outcomes. Our citizens don't know what we do, and we think they know what we do. And I think it's incumbent upon the fire department, the fire service, to be educating the citizens on what our job is. Don't sit there with the doors closed, be out in the public, but make sure that all your services are positive in nature, even though we do a lot of negative stuff or have to deal with negative stuff. Make sure it's positive. But we talk about that at the Fire Academy, that citizens generally don't want to see a big red truck in front of their house. But they don't also want to listen to us because we do cost a lot of money. How do we change that, making our services such that people are singing our praises, because all our outcomes are very positive. Our inputs and our outputs are money. Inputs are going to cost, outputs are going to cost. Outcomes are what affects the citizen.
Yeah, for example, a lot of agencies, you'll tout your response time, and some agencies still report average response time, and as we're shifting towards the 90th fractile response time. But that's just a number. What is it? It doesn't say what you did. Okay, so that is when you look at you tout your response time, or we did so many hours of training this year, or we did this many inspections. That's great. You did those things, but those are just numbers. Those are outputs. Okay, so what is the outcome? What is the difference that you're trying to make as a result of doing all these things? And you have to articulate that again to sell what it is you're trying to do. And we're not, we're real good at doing the outputs, okay, but we're not real good about doing the outcomes. And that's the key when you're dealing with elected officials, because that's what they care about. Again, what are we spending all this money on? What's it doing for us? And you're going to tell them if you go to outcomes.
And if you use data that the stakeholders understand, everybody uses fire loss data in your reports. What about property saved data by dollars? That makes a huge difference. And the council's going to understand that, but also your stakeholders then start going, boy, that's right. We didn't lose that block. We didn't lose that warehouse. And we need to use that more often.
Cardiac survival rates and our AMS efforts and those type of things, we need to tout those, and here's what we're doing as a result of how we're responding.
Okay. So the last thing for you, where could folks go to learn more about strategic planning and the management and fire emergency services organizations? What's next?
Well, this is time for the selfless plug.
It is.
Well, the National Fire Academy, we certainly have, our class is executive planning that deals, it's two parts. One is strategic planning, and the other part is project management. So strategic planning is setting the destination or the direction you want to go, and project management is how you get there. Two different things, but they meld together perfectly. And the thing that's really interesting about the course is that it uses a case study between Amundsen and Scott in 1911 on the race to the South Pole between the Norwegians and the British. And we review a video series, and it follows along exactly with what we're talking about in developing strategic plans and project management and contingency plan, all kinds. It's perfect. And a lot of the neat thing is you go to classes at the Fire Academy, and they're all good, and you meet some interesting people and all those things. But you kind of forget about some of the stuff that you got, but you're never going to forget this story as far as its application and what it did. So, and it's really, really well done. So it's fun to teach. I know Dave feels the same way. And it's kind of an eye-opening thing sometimes for students. It can be a change in how they approach things personally, not just through the fire service or the emergency services that they're working. Just a different way of looking at things and trying to get to where it is you want to go.
The interesting thing that Dave and I have found with our students is as they go through the case study, the comments about, my gosh, we're making the same mistake they made over 100 years ago. Why haven't we changed? Where's the change? And they're the ones that are going to bring about the change. But no, it's a wonderful course. Come take it.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you for your time today. And we'll have this posted up. And if you look at the meeting notes, you'll find links to the National Fire Academy and both Wallace and University Associates model and some other things. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was fun. So
thanks, Dave.
Yeah, you too.